Welcome to pop-up number 19 in the series. This one is appropriate, something Chris and I were talking about doing. It was on our list and we thought, well, we better bring this up quicker. This one's called How Can Your Business Survive the Downturn? Now, what's going on right now is, in essence, what is called a Black Swan event. Black Swan event is when something unforeseen comes out of the blue and causes incredible turmoil. Okay, there have been Black Swan events through lots of history. Chris and I have studied the Black Swan events back about 100 years or so, and the ones that have happened while she and I have been in business, we know those really well. This is the fourth one. The first one was the first Gulf War. It was fought on television. It was the first television war live on television. And it just shut everything down. It just shut up. I mean, for months, couple months. And we were in the middle of Pope House and in a fairly good position. We'd worked ourselves into a fairly decent position, but we had too high overhead. We weren't changing things fast enough to mass market. We were based on a collectibles market. And the collectibles just went away. And we did not react correctly. Basically, I did not react correctly. I was the publisher. I was running the company. I did not react correctly to the Black Swan event. I just kept thinking it was going to come back. And of course, well, I'll talk about it a little later here, but things don't come back. Not in the same way. It's a new world after a Black Swan event. And so, that's what we made that, and I tell you, I learned a lot from that. So that when those planes hit those buildings in 9/11, I woke up that morning and instantaneously knew we were in a Black Swan event. And we had to get 100% set. And so, while everybody else is staring at the TV, I'm madly throwing boxes of collectible books into the back of our van and taking off at a mad dash for Portland, Oregon, to Pal's bookstore. And because I knew that, all of our money was in New York. And I knew New York was going to shut down, and the economy was going to shut down, and everything else was going to shut down. And and I was just going to get us enough to get by. And I sold enough books at Pal's that morning. They were all in Pal's, and nobody was in Pal's staring at the television. I came in with these books. They gave me far more than they probably should have. And we made it through. And it was because I knew exactly what was happening the moment it happened. I knew it was a Black Swan event, and if I'd have waited till the next day, Pal's shut down. And things like that. I had to move. I had to move quick. It took me 2 hours to drive to Portland, listening to the radio the whole time. But, that one. The 2008 crash we were in fine position as writers. I was basically playing professional poker at that point. We had just started to move towards the indie side, but weren't moving yet completely. I wasn't convinced yet, and we just coasted right through that. I watched the economy, I watched other stuff, and we just went right through it without any issue. A lot of people did not, but we did. And so we were ready for it. In one way or another, as much as you could be ready for any kind of Black Swan event. So the next one is this one. But Chris is calling this, and she's got a couple blogs coming out in the next week or two about this and the same exact topic. We've worked this over together, and I'm going to give this kind of angle on it here, and then Chris has got some blogs that will also talk about it in a different way and in a similar way in some different ways. But she's calling this Black Swan ×2. Now, when the current president got elected, it was a surprise to everybody. It was kind of a black swan. Nobody was expecting it. There were a few, and a lot of people voted for him, of course, but that was a Black Swan event. Well, what we did, no politics intended here, we elected a president who didn't like government. And that's one of the reasons he was out there saying that, and people elected him, like, oh, he's going to change things, he's going to do this. Well, he has changed things quite significantly in a lot of places. But the reality is that we elected a president who doesn't know how to use government, doesn't like government, doesn't want to use government, and basically went in, ran it like his own little business, his own little mob thing. And whatever you think of that on your own political beliefs, please don't talk to me about it. I don't give a crap. What it was, though, is that for those of us who are aware, not in a doomsday scenario, we just went, oh, shit. We've got 4 years at least, maybe 8, 4 years at least, where all we can do is cross our fingers that no major world event happens. Okay, there were some, like the hurricane in Puerto Rico that he just botched so badly, and other stuff. But so far, North Korea hasn't fired missiles at the mainland of China to set him off and things like that. So we all just went, oh my God, we got a guy that doesn't know how to use government, wants to tear government down, sitting in the most powerful spot in government in the world. Please don't let there be a crisis. We almost made it. We made it to 2020, and here comes a crisis. And here comes a Black Swan event that if we'd had some sort of leadership in this country and people up top doing correct things, it would probably have mitigated this disaster that we're in at the moment, of where everything is shut down as I record this. Everything is shut down. And it's just, and everybody's afraid, and it's, yeah, I guess, but, we're all washing our hands. We're all going to have chapped hands, really a lot. And so the reality is that we are in a double Black Swan event. We've got a person who doesn't understand the levers, how to use government, and we got an international crisis with this virus. And that's why Chris is calling it a Black Swan times 2. Basically, that is, the Black Swan of 2016 is smacking into the Black Swan of 2020 and making and kind of like two waves coming together and making this much worse than it would be. It just, every president, like Chris says, that there's presidents have abilities. The ones that are already have like George Bush the first had a lot of experience and been around the White House and everything else. He didn't have those first bumbling. He didn't have the bumbling. He knew how to use government. His son didn't really get a chance. I mean, he'd only been in there for a number of months, and suddenly 9/11, and he did a pretty good job with it. Don't like it, don't like some of the other stuff he did, but that's all just politics. These Black Swan events, you got to have someone who knows how to help the country. In fact, if you remember, good old George Bush, George W., the Jr., was telling people to go out shopping and get the economy going again within a week after the event, because the whole economy had done exactly this. It had just come to a standstill. Everything had stopped. Within a week or so, he's telling people to go shopping. He's doing all this cheerleading stuff and everything else. We're in this 2 months, and there hasn't been any of that kind of stuff, and so the reality here is that's where we stand right now. Okay, now how do you survive? Basically a double Black Swan event. We got someone who doesn't like government in charge of government, and now we have an international crisis. And they're just think of two waves coming together making a bigger wave. That's what we got going on. It ain't fun, but we'll all survive it.